So do you have any questions on previous session? Any questions? No? All good? Seems you guys are not practicing. If you practice, you should get questions, right? Okay. So spend some time and make sure you practice on same day. All right. So here, whenever we are launching our EC2 instance, in third step, we have an option called user data. So generally in AWS, we have two types of data when coming to EC2. One is user data, second one is metadata. So metadata means like it's a data about the data. Whenever you have a running EC2 instance, and if you want to get some information about that EC2 instance, we have a URL. Whether it is a Windows operating system or Linux operating system, you can just use that URL and you can access all information about that EC2 instance. What is the public IP address of that instance? What is a private IP address? What is the instance ID? What is a MAC ID? What is a NIC card? NIC card's MAC ID. So we have different types of informations, security related, instance general information. So you can get all that information by running or by querying local instance metadata. We'll see both now. When coming to user data, it is like a bootstrap script. User data is nothing but bootstrap script. You can give commands while launching instance itself. You can run many scripts and you can store all that commands in a file and you can upload that file. Again, those commands are going to install when you launch instance for the first time only. If you are giving any typos or later on, if you want to modify, so basically you need to stop that instance. You can modify, but again, that is not going to take effect. Okay, so we'll see that now. So I'm going to demonstrate this feature with Windows as well as Linux operating systems. If it is a Windows, we use PowerShell. If it is a Linux, you can use you can initialize a bash, simple shell script. You can initialize a bash. So then you can execute whatever the commands you want to. Okay. So the commands I used in our last session. The same commands I'm going to use, nothing new. So I'm going to install HTTPD package and I'm going to create one index.html. So manually I did all these operations, right? Manually I created this simple index.html. So then after we have started the service, then we made it as a logon service. So I'm going to automate this process by using user data feature. Not only this, you can take any command. You can take any command and you can install it here. The command must be a valid one and you should not give any typos. Okay, let's see that. So I'm navigating to EC2. So let's switch to new EC2 experience. This is a new console actually. So here click on launch instance, click on launch instance. Now what operating system you want to take, you can take your required operating system. So for example, if you are taking Windows, by defaultly have you observed we are getting UTC time zone, not IST. When you launched a new EC2 instance, we are not going to get your local time zone information. In our case, IST is our local time zone, right? So, but instance is going to show some different time. So here it is 7:42 AM. So while launching my instance itself, I want to set up time of my EC2 instance. I really don't want to log in. I really don't want to execute that command or manually. I really don't want to set up that. So in simple, what we can do is write down all your commands in user data field. So, again, what are the commands I'm going to use that works in our local machine also? So if you want to test that, you can go to your local machine. The feature I'm going to use is TZUtil, time zone utility. TZUtil space slash. So if you want to know the available commands, you can give question mark. If you want to list all the time zones, you can give L. If you want to set a time zone, you can give yes. So let's see available commands. I'm going to give question mark. So these are the examples. Slash G, it displays the current time zone. Slash question mark, it displays the information. Slash S, that is nothing but sets the current time zone. So whatever the time zone ID you are going to give, it is going to set. Slash L, it is going to list all. So let's look into that slash L. Click on enter. These all are the time zones. So our time zone is UTC plus 5:30. Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, New Delhi. So the name is India Standard Time. You should not give it a typo again. So if you want to set up, you know the command, right? So TZUtil -s, give colon, give this. When you click on enter, the time zone is going to set up to India Standard Time. Okay, right. I'm going to perform the same. So I'm selecting Microsoft Windows Server 2012 R2 base, and I'm selecting T2 Micro. Scroll down to the bottom. Here is a user data field. You can write everything as a text, or you can upload it as a file. You can write down all commands and you can browse that file. So this is what the command I copied from there. But again, directly you cannot give that command. You can initialize the terminals. So we must open that PowerShell console. So Windows PowerShell, this is what the console in servers. We use this. So we need to initialize that. Then I'm going to execute. Then I'm going to close that PowerShell parameter. So opening PowerShell. Then I'm executing this command. Then closing PowerShell. Okay, it's a very simple command. Click on next. 30 gigs. Next. So here I'm going to call this as a Windows instance. I'm going to select our existing security group MySC, review, and launching using our Mumbai KPR. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll always go with this Mumbai KPR. Okay, so it is a Windows instance, and once instance is provisioned, so we can get connected and we can observe that. So you're going to get India Standard Time set up in that machine. So again, basically this machine need to get EC2 config service up and running. So it is going to take a minimum of 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. So give MSTSC, click on enter, given the public IP address. Simple, you can just go to actions, you can try to browse. It will tell, okay, password not yet available. So we need to wait for some time to retrieve that passport. Okay, let's try again. Seems it is ready. So then go to key pairs, browse your key pair. Okay, so we got connected to this EC2 instance now. And see here, the time zone is set up to 7:47 AM. That is nothing but IST. If you don't set that up, you won't get it. Generally, you will get UTC time zone. So AWS standardly uses UTC time zone. So we executed that. And if you want to view what is the user data delivered to this EC2 instance, go to actions, instance settings, view or change user data. This is what the user data we have given. So if you want to test it, you can launch another EC2 instance without giving this user data and observe the time zone. Then launch another EC2 instance by giving this, then you can observe. So you can find many of the PowerShell scripts, whatever the task you want to perform. So you can perform by using PowerShell scripts if it is a Windows operating system. So this is a PowerShell scripting. So you can find many of the get started with, if you really want to learn, so you can use requirements, installing, starting Windows PowerShell. So whatever the commands you want to, you can just get that command and you can execute that by using user data. Okay, so that is Windows user data. So when coming to metadata, however, I launched an instance, I'm demonstrating it now. So let's assume you are just a developer or you are a regular user who do not have access to AWS console. This is a running EC2 instance and you want to get some information about this running EC2 instance. So in that case, we can use metadata. You know what is metadata? It's a data about the data. So for example, this instance have some data, but we do have some information about this instance also, when it is launched, what is the security group it is using, what is the public IP address, what is the private IP address. That is all information about my instance. Those all information we can get by using metadata URL. Okay, so let's look into that metadata. First, I'm going to disable IEHC. Why? Because I need to execute a URL through the browser. So here I'm disabling IEHC. So I'm going to open google.com by using our Explorer. So it opens a browser. So here is my browser. Now here I'm going to give a URL http://169.254.169.254/latest/ if you want to view user data, give user hyphen data, sorry, not hyphen, give user data, any typo. Okay, latest spelling is user hyphen data. Again, 5 is missing here. Okay. So this is what the URL. I gave typos. It displays the user data. Now, if you want to view metadata, instead of user, give meta. Okay, go here, give that, click on enter. This is all information we can get from this EC2 instance. For example, I want to know this EC2 instance AMI ID. Simple. Next to that metadata, give slash. What is the information you required? Again, remember, we can get only this information. Click on enter. This is what my AMI ID is. My instance AMI ID. See, I can execute when my instance is in running state. Am I right? Otherwise, I cannot execute this command, right? So, for example, if you want to see what is the host name of this machine, we have this host name. This is what host name of this machine. And if you want to view private IP address, this is what my private IP address. If I want to view public IP address, This is what the public IP address is. And if you want to view the public key stored within this machine, so copy these public keys / public keys. So it is showing 0, that is nothing but Mumbai key pair. Then give 0 here, click on enter, and we have another file called OpenSSH keys. Just go here, give / give OpenSSH keys. So this is what the public key stored in this machine, Mumbai key pair. So we are browsing one, right? We are browsing the PEM file that is going to validate against this particular file. If it is matching, then only it is going to give a password. Otherwise, it won't give a password. In simple, now I have this instance and I associated this Mumbai key pair, right? Let's try to browse any other key pair instead of this Mumbai. So I'm selecting Linux key pair.pem. See, there was an error decrypting the password. Whatever the browsed one, it is going to validate against that the shown key. If it is able to decrypt successfully, then only we will get a password. That is what the backend security mechanism Amazon uses, public key and private key mechanism. Okay. If you want to view some services, go here and pick the services. Go here. Domain and partition. Let's pick this domain. So Amazon AWS.com is a domain. It is not added to any of our own domain now. So it is running on workspace. We'll talk about that. So this is a metadata URL, and you need to remember that. You must remember that. It is important for your certification exam, and this mechanism also important where we are using. Simple to get some information about our running EC2 instance. Okay. We are querying this operating system and we are getting some information about this. For example, if you want to get information related to networking like a security groups and all, NIC card, look for network, give network and click on enter. Interfaces, okay, grab that interfaces. MAC IDs, they're filtering by using MAC IDs. This is what the MAC ID of, we have only one NIC card. When you have multiple, you are going to get the multiple values there. Given that MAC ID, seems we have worst internet connectivity here. So these are the information we can get by using related to that, networking part. So who is the owner of this EC2 instance? It is going to show 12-digit AWS account owner. And what is the public host name? What is the security groups associated? What is the subnet ID? Under what VPC it is running? What is the interface ID? Network interface. You are going to get all this information related to security. Okay. We are getting all this information by using metadata URL. So http://169.254.169.254/latest/meta-data. And if you want to view any user data delivered to this EC2 instance from operating system level, give user-data. It gives user data information. What commands given when you launch your instance for the first time, right? This is for Windows operating system, user data and metadata. Let's look into this option for Linux operating system. When coming to Linux operating system, there is no change in this URL. It is same. The only thing is, in Linux operating system, we are not going to get a browser. So you cannot view that. So we need to give one command called curl. It is going to display everything. The output will display in our terminal. So give curl space, give the URLs, metadata URL and user data URL. It gave same information. Let's do that now. So launch instance, Amazon Linux 2 AMI, or you can take Amazon Linux AMI, T2 micro, click on next and scroll down here, whatever user data you want to give. So there we initialized PowerShell, right? So here we need to initialize bash. So for that we need to give a command shebang/bin/bash. If you give this, it is going to initialize a terminal. Then we can, whatever the commands you are going to give next to this, it is going to execute automatically. Okay. As a first step, when we connect it to our Linux operating system, what we are doing? We are updating our operating system with latest security patches. So what is the command for that? Yum update. Again, are we going with an interactive method? So give -y. Okay. Then I want to install Apache Web Server. The same commands, guys, nothing new. So here what we used, yum install stdpd-y. So what it did, what this command will do, it is going to install Apache, right? So now, if you want to go with the test page, you can just start the service. And even after reboot also, the service need to start automatically. So what we did, chkconfig stdpd on. Now, if you are okay to get a test page, you can just go with that. Otherwise, you can use a command called echo. Whatever the data you want to generate by using that echo command, you can give that, and you can write that into a file in a particular location. So for that, simple. See, I have a terminal. I'm giving echo something. The output is same. I'm giving echo whatever the thing I'm writing. It is just displaying the same. Now, what I want to do is when I'm not giving any spaces and all. So if you are going to give spaces and all, give double quotes. So now here you can give. See the output is what my output is. I want to write this output to a file. So echo. So I'm giving 1 greater than symbol. Then space, where do you want to? So I want to create a file under C drive. So avinash.txt, click on enter. So like you can give different directory. C is not allowing us, but I given D. If I go to D drive, see that avinash.txt earlier it is not available. But when I go to this D drive, I got a document avinash.txt. What this file contain? Whatever the one I generated by using echo command. Now I'm going to write one simple HTML. So what I'm going to do is echo header 1. This is a simple website. Then I'm going to write this to under D drive. I'm going to create a directory called index.html. Okay, click on enter. So if you go to D drive, earlier we do not have this index.html, but this command, what it did, whatever the output it is generating, it written that output to a file. It created a file as file is not available with a name called index.html. So if you go here, if you open this file, it is showing, okay, this is a simple website. Got it? So manually, I'm creating a simple HTML file. So for that, what we did, echo. So I'm going to, again, if you don't want it in bold and all, you can leave this in, you can give a string, simple string. So, but I want to, I want to get it in a bold and all. So giving header, and I'm going to call this as, so this is a user data website and closing the header. And I'm going to write this to a directory. See, in our Windows, what I did, I have given D drive, then it created a file there. If I give F drive, it create file in F drive, right? So I want to create a file called index.html under var www.html. Why? Because Yesterday we discussed where www.html is a path where public document root location is. What are the files you place there? By default, it will deliver as a website. So scroll down, where www.html, the name is index.html. Okay. So that file by default is not available under where www.html. So let's copy this and I'm going to give same. Okay. Now click on next. Make sure you should not give any typo. For example, you gave any typo, so the command will execute there itself and it will throw an error. It won't execute another commands. Okay. So let's go here. Click on next. 8 gigs. So and I'm going to call this as a Linux instance. Configure security group. Whatever the security group you are picking, make sure it open with port number 80. Review and launching using an existing key pair. So now I'm not going to get connected to this EC2 instance. I'll just wait for a minute or two. I'll wait to execute all those commands. Then I'll directly test the output without login to my EC2 instance. And remember, throughout our course, I'm going to use the same. Nothing more than that. When coming to Linux part, AWS level operations is almost same for Windows as well as Linux. Okay. So here is my Linux instance. Grab the public IP address or public DNS. Wait for a minute or two. Why? Because we have given M update, right? So it is going to take a minute, basically. It is not yet executed. Meanwhile, see, without logging to the EC2 instance, whatever the command I have given, it did all the manual task and we got the output. And we are delivering all those commands by using user data. Simple. These all commands written in a simple file. Whenever you are launching similar kind of server, just browse that file. So you can maintain that documentations based on your organizational requirements. You can maintain that. Okay. Now let's get connected to this machine. So I'm going to get connected to this EC2 instance. Navigate to key pair, CMD, SSH, -I, Mumbai key pair, EC2 user @ public IP address. Click on enter, give yes, and we got connected. You know this, right? If you want to use PuTTY, convert that PEM to PPK and get connected to that. Right. Now, I want to view metadata. We have seen metadata for our Windows machine. Exactly same way we can. But if you are giving direct URL http://169.254.169.254/latest/user-data or meta-data. So it is a no such file or directory. It is treating this as a command. But we have a command called curl. There, give this URL, click on enter. So there you can see, this is what the user data you have given while launching the instance. They are able to get that information, right? So if you want to view metadata, curl http://169.254.169.254/latest/meta-data. Sorry, I given typo, that is curl. Okay. Now these all are the commands available. Again, you can get only this information, guys. Now, next to that, what information? For example, if you want MAC, just go here. Same mechanism. Give MAC. That works for us. Okay. Okay. These all information you can get. For example, if you want to see public IPv4, yeah, grab this. So next to this URL, give this URL. Next to that, give public IPv4. This is what the public IP address of this machine. Same, whatever the information. Next to that URL, give that. The thing is, you need to give curl to display. Even if you want to view google.com, yes, you can give that. It is going to give simple, HTML and all. How that is delivering and all. So it is referring to HTTP, this particular URL when you gave google.com. So clear with this user data and metadata? Or any questions on this? Okay, can you try to answer this question? Quick. B, that means C, D, B, only one is pending A. Nobody is saying A. Okay, here someone said A also. Okay, I'm getting all four options as an answer. See, changes to the security group is going to take effect immediately. I use this sentence multiple times. Existing instances, you really no need to reboot. You really no need to start and stop. How many instances you have existing or newly launching? Changes to security group is going to take effect immediately. You really no need to stop, start, reboot. So here B is the right answer. So immediately to the new instances only, existing instance also using same security group, it applicable for that also. But it may take several minutes. No, immediately. It won't take seconds also. Immediately to the new instances, old instances, no. You really no need to stop and start. So remember that. Okay. Where is that? Where is that? Okay. Quick answer for this, please. Quick. See? Sure. Can't we get any information from CloudWatch? What CloudWatch will do, it gives metrics, it gives graphs, not informations, it gives usage information. Okay. And why not B? If you gave IP config or if config, it gives IP address information, right? Then why you are not selecting that? What is the option you are selecting? Okay. So C is the right answer, but IP config or if config does not provide any public IP address information. Yes. So if you go here, for example, this is Windows machine, right? Okay, we are in instance. Okay, these are Windows machine. So if I give IP config, it is showing some information 192.168.100.7, but that IP address works only within this network. It gives private IP address information, but not public IP address. See, for this network, we have different public IP address. If you give my IP, this is what the public IP address. So, but I need both, and I want to use only one option. So in that case, metadata is the right option. User data, again, no, don't confuse between those. Okay. So now let's start discussing about load balancer and its importance. And we have a previous generation load balancer. Quickly, we'll create that today. So tomorrow again, we'll create application load balancer and network load balancer. That is a bit advanced one. So, okay. So my question here, so you have an EC2 instance, and that EC2 instance performance is not up to the mark. You're not getting best performance. So as a first step, as a AWS engineer or administrator or a solution architect, what is a step you are going to take, or what are the things you are going to verify?
Security group network.
See, if any issues with security group, my application itself will not deliver. Understand my question? My application is working, but I am not able to get best performance. Check the instance status. Instance status is good. No issues with instance statuses. What I'm mentioning, my application is working fine. No issues with my application. It's absolutely working fine in on-premise. Later on, we moved to AWS, and there you selected, let's assume T2 Micro. You're not able to get the best performance. So we are going to verify memory, space, and IOPS. Check the CPU and memory usage and disk utilization. Increase the capacity. Okay, these all are valid answers. So again, where you are going to verify? So you can log into EC2 instance. You can go to performance monitor. It's a performance monitor. Command is PERF MON. If you want to view resource monitor, RES MON. Resource monitor, performance monitor. You are going here, you are observing all the what services are taking, so which service is taking how much resource and all, what is the processor times and all, so how much processor is utilized. So everything you are going to check. And you observed this EC2 instance, network performance is low. As I mentioned, you have taken T2 Micro only. So when coming to T2 category, network performance is low to moderate. So if it is related to network, then what step you are going to choose? Pick an EC2 instance where you can get a particular bandwidth for your EC2 instance. Launch instance After selecting your operating system, here you can see network performance. Low to moderate, low to moderate, moderate, up to 5 gigs, up to 5 gigs. So you have selected up to 5 gigs EC2 instance. Still pockets in and out is high. What you're going to do? What you're going to do? Share. But before that, we have multiple NIC cards option, right? Why don't you consider that? Attach multiple NIC cards. So for every NIC card, you are going to get 5 gigs. So it is going to be double. The traffic is going to offload, you know. So again, that is a secondary thing. So if it is not related to network and you have observed CPU utilization is low, but disk read and write operations is huge. You're running some database. Database always runs, in and out operations. It reads data continuously from our hard disk blocks, right? So IOPS operations are running peak. Okay, so then what you're going to perform? Change the instant type. Okay, so your instance is compute optimized only. And I said CPU utilization is very low. So you need to move it to compute optimized. Memories for RAM. Other than that, I really don't want to change the configuration. Don't we have any other options to get best performance related to IOPS? You're running your instance with magnetic. That is the cheapest and poor performance one. What you are going to do?
We will change it to this normal hard disk.
Load balance is last option, Kamaldeep.
Normal hard disk.
Normal hard disk. Do we have any option like normal hard disk?
Storage.
Use proper terminology. Proper service name.
RDS.
RDS. That is database. Complete different service. Why I will talk about that now. S3. That is to store static data. SSD. Yes. Again. So my IOPS requirement is 15,000. What SSD I need to choose? I'm constantly getting 10,000 IOPS per second. Constantly 10,000. And I want to make it 15,000 and I want to, reserve some. What instance hard disk type I need to use, I need to run? We discussed about 5. General purpose, provisioned, magnetic, throughput, cold STD, total 5. So in this case, my requirement is 15,000 IOPS. What is the hard disk type? I need to choose, I need to select. Throughput? Seriously? Throughput optimizes for big data kind of applications. If you need specific IOPS requirement, make sure you select provisioned IOPS. If you need more than 10,000, go with the provisioned IOPS. I clearly mentioned that. We even discussed a couple of questions also on that. Okay, so that is related to hard disk. And if it is related to compute, so immediately, so if it is a T2 or T3 micro, so we have an option T2 or T3 unlimited. You can add that. It is going to add some more EC2 CPU cores. So otherwise, increase at different instance categories and all. So these all options. Am I offloading some of the requests to any other instance? What are the options we discussed? We are taking only one EC2 instance. Whatever the instance I have taken. I'm trying to add resources and I'm trying to improve performance on the same machine. I'm asking us to change the hard disk type. I'm asking to change instance category. So this scaling is basically vertical scaling. Fine, you are not getting best performance, so you are going to change that to T2 extra large. You modify that to T2 4 extra large, 8 extra large, 16 extra large, or different categories. C5D categories, that is the latest generation categories. So it comes with 64 CPUs and 128, even 1 TB, 2 TB capacity also. You can choose. So, but how feasible it is? So till some point of time, this vertical scaling is absolutely fine. But the disadvantage with this vertical scaling is due to any of the reason, if this instance is down, immediately your entire application will go down. And as it is only one instance, you are going to run either it in a 1A or 1B or 1C. If that goes down, or so your application is a huge hit. So one EC2 instance is not at all sufficient. How big that EC2 instance it may be, they have limitations, right? Hardware configuration limitations, even in AWS also. So if it is a Mumbai region, the one you can get is like the highest configuration you can get is 2 TB RAM capacity. But let's assume your application is, for your application that is also not sufficient. So in that case, what we are going to do is, we are going to route traffic between multiple instances. If one instance is not able to handle all the requests with best configurations also, go with multiple. Okay. Again, how we are going to route the traffic and all? So basically, we need to give single point of contact for how many instances you are going to run. If you have 4 or if you have 5, we need to give a single point of contact. When a customer trying to connect, to what server request need to go? To what server request need to go? A big question, right? So manually you need to, at your program level, you need to perform all these options and all. So instead of that, or else you have configured in that manner, due to some reasons, if this instance is down, still how many requests you are routing manually, those all requests will dead. There is no intelligence in this scenario. So what you can do, how many instances you want to launch all those instances with your required application, required settings. Place a load balancer. This load balancer is not a new concept, guys. Earlier also we have load balancers, but it is a physical device. You are going to connect how many servers you are going to run your application. Physically you are going to connect. You are going to configure one IP address to that physical device. Then you are going to map your domain name. Whatever request is coming to the device, that device is going to route traffic to multiple servers. So if you want to see such type of devices, load balancer devices. So these all are devices only. These are hardware load balancer and load balancer. These all are load balancer only. So we even have a TP-Link, and we even have Dell load balancers also. TP-Link, load balancer. So what it is doing, it just routing the traffic. Simple. This is a simple mechanism. So here is a load balancer. These all are the servers. So what are the requests are coming? So multiple NIC cards are there. So it is going to route all the traffic to all the servers. Simple mechanism. So exactly same way, we are going to run multiple instances here. And that end customer is going to get connected to this load balancer. This load balancer in AWS, we call it as a ELB, Elastic Load Balancer. This load balancer is going to route traffic to all our associated instances. It continuously sends the traffic, and advantage is it continuously monitor the health status of this EC2 instance. Due to some reason, if one of the instance is down, this load balancer will not send data. It will send all data to another healthy instances only. Another healthy instances. So how it is going to analyze that instance health status and all? Simple, it pings. You know what is ping? So ping stands for Ping stands for Pocket Internet Gopher. Ping what ping what it will do basically. For example, I want to test network connectivity from my laptop or currently connected device to Google. So what I'm doing, I'm giving ping google.com and I'm getting replace. Sometimes we may get like a request timed out, destination host is unreachable, unavailable. We will get such type of errors. For example, if I remove this NIC card, if I run the same command, I won't get any replies. So ping basically, it is going to generate one pocket from our local laptop, and that pocket is going to float or travel over the internet. It will hit this server's NIC card and we will get reply. It hits at server's NIC card and we will get reply. So to get that replies, how many seconds it is taking is matter here. For example, for this Google, this is what the time it is taking. For example, if you are pinging any other website, you may not get same result. See here we are getting 244 milliseconds, 18 milliseconds. What is this? Latency is in simple. So it is taking 243 milliseconds to send and receive packet to that particular server, which is delivering that application. So if these replies are not coming, that means site is down. So exactly same way, our load balancer continuously pings our EC2 instance to a particular path. We can give a path. Okay, ping to index.html over port number 80. Ping to statuscheck.html file over port number 80 or port number 443. If that instance is giving reply, that means instance is healthy. If instance is not giving replies, instance is not healthy, it stops sending the traffic. Okay, so again, okay, first thing, it is going to ping by using a protocol HTTP like a port number 80. Okay, and ping to, you can define file. Okay, ping to index.html. If index.html file is present, we will get response. Or we can create a specific file, statuscheck.html. We can perform health check there. Now we have some mechanism. How frequently you want to perform health check? Health check intervals. Now, this load balancer need to go and perform health check on our EC2 instances, right? How frequently? Do you want to perform health check for every 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, for every 5 seconds, 10 seconds? You can define that. So, for every 10 seconds, I want to perform a health check. For every 10 seconds, this load balancer will go and check status of our load balancer or EC2 instance. Now that EC2 instance need to give reply, right? That is request timeouts, response times. Within how many seconds our EC2 instance need to give reply? When instance is pinging, within how many seconds that instance need to give reply? So I'm going to make this as a 2 seconds. When my instance is elastic load balancer is pinging, it need to reply within 2 seconds. Again, how many health checks you require to declare that instance as a healthy one or unhealthy one? That is healthy thresholds and unhealthy thresholds. For example, with only one health check is failed. So do you really want to stop sending all traffic? Due to some reasons, or that application may, that instance may, some snapshot may happen. In that case, IOPS is going to freeze, right? So if one health check, I really don't want to declare that instance health status with only one health check. I'll prefer to go with the 2 or 3. So in that case, healthy thresholds. If 2 continuous health checks are success, Okay, that instance is healthy. Unhealthy thresholds. For example, 3 continuous health checks are failed, then only this load balancer is going to declare that this instance as an unhealthy one. Is this clear or any confusion? Now, how many seconds required to declare instance as unhealthy according to these settings? 30 seconds. First 10 seconds it perform health check. If it is failed, unhealthy threshold is 3. Again after 10 more seconds it is going to perform one more. So 2 failed. Again it is going to perform another health check. If third one also failed, okay, then this instance is unhealthy. Then it will start sending traffic. So 3 intervals for every 10 seconds, one health check is happening. If 3 health checks are failed, then instance is unhealthy. So how many seconds it is going to take to declare that as a healthy? 20. First health check is happened, it is healthy. Fine. Second health check is happened, that is also clear, it is healthy. So 2 continuous health checks. So for every 10 seconds it is happening, right? So after 20 seconds it is going to declare that as a healthy. So simple mechanism. Got it? Right. So now let's configure. So again, this is already, so we can configure this load balancer for any kind of operating system. All it need to deliver some traffic over HTTP or HTTPS. HTTPS we will discuss in our future sessions, not now. Okay. So we are going to discuss with HTTP. So if you are able to get output whenever you are giving this URL, okay, you can. So you can configure load balancer between Windows as well as Linux also. One server it may be Windows, another server it may be Linux. Okay. So again, I prefer to go with the Linux operating system. I'm terminating the Windows one and I'm going to get connected to our existing server. So quickly, I'll do one thing, guys. So here, this is a user data website 2, and I'm going to give this for another Linux instance. So what it will do, we are going to get another website. Launch instance, Amazon Linux 2, T2 Micro, scroll down, given this user data. But before that, I'll quickly verify one thing. So my existing instance is running in AP South 1B. So for high availability purpose, I'm going to run this in a 1A. And scroll down, I given user data, add storage, and I'm going to call this as a Linux instance 2. Click on next, select existing security group, port number is opened, launch, Mumbai keypad. This is Linux instance 1 and this is Linux instance 2. Linux instance 1, Linux instance 2. Okay. So this is what the output of my instance 1. Let's assume, just assume you are running your application in multiple EC2 instances and you are getting heavy traffic. So just to show you output, I am taking different web pages. But let's assume both the web servers are delivering same content. Okay. So there. Okay. Okay. So this is my instance 1 website. This is my instance 2 website. Let's assume your application is running with both the web servers. and assume both are delivering same data. Just to show you outputs, I take a different data, but generally we won't go with different kind of data for multiple instances. So you have increased instance configuration, still not giving best performance. So you decided to run your application with multiple instances. So then all customers, some customers are pointing to this, some customers are pointing to this. Again, some in between, like some customers are complaining like we are not able to hit that application, or server side errors and all these things. So the traffic is not distributing. Most of the customers know this IP address and less traffic is here. So instead of getting into such type of scenarios, what I want to do is I want to give a common domain name, DNS name for both the instances, and that I can achieve by using load balancer. And it is going to take care about health status of this load by EC2 instances and all, and it is going to route traffic automatically. Okay, so for that, left side, scroll below, scroll down. Here you can find load balancers. Click on load balancers. Create load balancer. Mainly we have three types of load balancers. Classic load balancer is a previous generation one. Before VPC and all, we have a network called EC2 Classic Networks. So at that time, we use this classic load balancer. And see, even Amazon also grayed out, and it is a previous generation one. Application load balancer. This is one of the widely used one. Network load balancer, it is a new one. And this gives, among all three, this gives best performance. Like it can serve million requests per second, but not an intelligent one. And it supports only some protocols like a TCP, TLS, UDP protocol. If your application is running on HTTPS, go with application load balancer. Classic load balancer, all legacy protocols or any protocol, you can just go with HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, you can use any. But we have a lot of drawbacks by using this classic load balancer. You cannot run multiple applications. For example, I want to run one application on port number 80, another one on 8080. Or I want to route traffic between multiple resources. Those all scenarios cannot possible with this classic load balancer. But for today, we are going to discuss that. Next session, we will discuss this. So classic load balancer. Mechanism is same. No change in mechanism. The configuration part is different. So click on classic load balancer. What is a load balancer name you want to give? So I'm going to call this as a production elastic load balancer. Then create load balancer inside. Under what VPC you want to create? I'm assuming we have only one VPC at moment. So I'm selecting that, my default VPC. Okay. Create an internal load balancer. Internal load balancer works only within VPC. Outside of AWS environment, it will not work. Outside of AWS environment, it will not work. It is like an intranet. What is intranet? It works within our organization. Internet hosted one, it works everywhere. So again, if I select this, I cannot show output from my browser. I need to launch another instance in this VPC. There if I give, then only it works. Only within this VPC it works. Okay, I'm not going to select that. Simple. Do you want to create a internal load balancer or internet facing load balancer? Internal, select this option. Internet, don't select that option. Enable advanced VPC configuration. Yes, select this option. Here it will allow in what are all the subnets your EC2 instance are running and all. So I'm selected that. So what is the port number you are using and how you are performing the transports? So what is the traffic coming on port number 80? I'm routing it to instance port number 80. So again, if you want to open port number 443, you can click on add select HTTP. Yes. But in next step, you need to browse your SSL certificate. But do we have any SSL at moment? No, we do not have. So have a dedicated service called ACM. There we will discuss this. Again, we will come back again here. So, but if you are too curious, I made a video. At moment, if you really want to view that, so but however, we are going to discuss that in our coming sessions. So, I'm opening port number 80. Then, in what are all the subnets our EC2 instance is running? So, for example, we have two instances. One is running in 1A, one is running in 1B. So then select both subnets, 1A as well as 1B. I selected both. Whatever the instance is running in 1C, I cannot add that here. In future, I may launch, so I'm going to add that one also. I'm going to add all the three subnets to this load balancer. Then click on next. Here we need to create a security group. So I'm going to create a new security group and I'm going to call this as a ELB security group. And it needs port number 80. It doesn't require 22, 3389s and all. It is a virtual interface. It is a virtual interface. So it is not an operating system to log in and to view any of the OS level operations. So port number 80 must be open. Then click on next. See, as I have not opened port number 443, so it is going to give a little warning. So you are not opening port number 443. So if you open, you can improve some security settings and all. If you open, it will ask us to select SSL along with HTTP. I'm going to select HTTP yes, or you can even select SSL also. So when I click on next, see here, choose a certificate from ACM. What is your certificate name? I already have some certificates, but again, you will come up with a question, okay, have you generated that? Where you generated that? These are all questions you are going to come up with. So that is why I'm skipping this step. Okay, I have 3 domain names and I have generated certificate for that. Again, how I registered, where I registered, these all we will discuss in our Route 53. So don't worry about this feature at moment. So open port number 80. Click on next. Opening port number 80 here. Leaving this, no issues. Click on next. Now we discussed this health checks, right? What are the health checks we discussed? These things you need to configure here. What is a ping protocol you want to use? What is a ping port? To what file you want to ping? We have only index.html, so I'm going to ping to that. Response timeout. If my load balancer is pinging, within how many seconds we need to get response from our instance? 2 seconds. What is the interval? How frequently you want to perform health check on our instances? For every 5 seconds I want to perform. I'm giving all minimum values. That means quickly it will decide the instance is healthy or unhealthy. Unhealthy thresholds. So if 2 continuous health checks are failed, that is going to treat that instance as unhealthy. Healthy thresholds, how many? For example, I'm going to give 5 and I'm going to give 3. That means within 15 seconds that declare as a unhealthy. Within 25 seconds it declares as a healthy. You got this mechanism? Right. Now click on next. What are all the instances you want to add on top of this elastic load balancer? What instances you want to make a member of this load balancer? So I'm going to select instance 1 as well as instance 2. And here we have a feature called cross zone load balancing. We will discuss that. So don't worry, I'll take a minute to explain that. Click on next. What is the tags you want to give? So I'm going to call this as like one ELB and click on review and create. This is a review screen. I added both instances. Cross zone load balancing is enabled as both instances are running in 2 different availability zones. So then click on create. Now one load balancer is going to create and we are going to get a DNS name. But in backend we are going to get a public IP address also. Okay. So you cannot view that public IP address here. Sometimes you may need to view that public IP address. So you can find that under network interfaces. So under network interfaces, see 2 new came, ELB production ELB. One is in 1A, another one is in 1B. So this is going to hold a public IP address. So now it is showing available, but in a minute or two, it will change its status to in use. So just now it is creating. That is why it is showing available. Okay, once this got created, here you can find the status as active. Posting. Here 0 of 2 instance in service. So it is not yet in service. And go to instances. Here status is unknown, unknown. Hover your cursor here. A transient error occurred. Please try again later. Okay. Wait for some time. Just give a refresh. See here, both are in service. If you want to remove any of the instance from load balancer, you can remove it from here. Health checks later on. If you want to modify health checks, you can do that here. Health check intervals instead of index.html. If you want to perform health check to any other one. Listeners, later on, you already have a load balancer, you want to apply SSL there, you can just go here, you can add required ports later on also. Monitoring, CloudWatch is a responsible service, it gives all graphs related to this load balancer. Tags, if you want to add or edit any tags. Migration, so this classic load balancer is a previous generation one, right? So Amazon introduced an option, single click migration, one click migration. So if you click on launch ALB migration wizard, immediately with a single click, these all infrastructure is migrated to application load balancer. So you really no need to worry about that migration part from classic to application. Okay, so seems both the instances are ready, and two out of 2 instances are in service. Let's grab this DNS name and this network interfaces also. Just give a refresh. See, in use. And these are the public IP addresses. Okay. So now let's give that here. I'm refreshing continuously. See, one request is going to website, another request is going to website 2. Website, website 2, website, website 2 continuously. So this classic load balancer uses round robin mechanism. It uses round robin. That means first request here, second here. In our case, we have only 2. Third here, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. Due to any reason, if any instance is down, all requests will go 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Again, it continuously performs health checks. When it is declared as a healthy, again 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay. So it uses round robin mechanism. Now, see. So for any customer, I'm going to give this. Or we can even mask this DNS name with our domain name. So if you purchase any domain name like avinash.website or learnaws.co.in, we can map that also. Okay. Due to some reasons, if any of the instance is down, so let's take this instance 1 and temporarily I'm stopping this. Wantedly, intentionally I'm stopping that. If I go here, if I refresh, only second instance is giving reply. Only second instance is giving reply. So if you go to load balancer, if you observe these instances, one is in service, another one is out of service. So it is saying instance is in stopped state. That means health checks are failing. It will tell, okay, how many healthy instances, how many unhealthy instances. So one instance is out of service. Why? Because it is in stopped state. So all requests are going to only one instance. What will happen if I stop this instance also? What kind of error we are going to get? I've stopped both. So what is the HTTP status code we are going to get? We discussed HTTP status codes, right? Is not found. Okay. 500. Yes. Yes. we are going to get server side errors. See, that is not our problem. That is AWS, like a load balancer is working, but load balancer does not have any healthy instances to deliver. So let's assume you are nowhere related to this application, this site and all. So you are accessing that application, and as the server is unavailable, you are going to get 500 related errors. Okay. Again, so now if you go here, if you refresh, both are out of service, both are in stopped state. When you start again, this load balancer will start analyzing that health status. It is going to start performing health checks. Once the health check is clear, that website is going to deliver again. So I'm going to, I've launched, it is in pending state. Okay, now it is in running state. Still it is in, okay, see here, the state has got changed. Instance registration is still in progress. So health checks are clearing. Then immediately it is going to perform that registration, and it is in service. And if you go here, we are going to get that output website. Again, if you launch this instance one also, if you launch this, once that came into service, then both servers are going to deliver the content here. Okay, so this is a load balancer mechanism, and we have a small feature on this load balancer called sticky sessions. So basically, sticky sessions is nothing but, see, now I'm going here and I'm refreshing. Now my requests are going to 2 websites, but when a session is established to one EC2 instance, I want to continue that user session with same web server. If I refresh, it should not send that request to another website to create a new session. If you implemented any username and password, if you give a refresh again, it will ask you to enter username and password. Why? Because it's completely hitting to a new website, right? New web server. So in that case, what you can do, you can maintain this option by using an option called stickiness. Now you scroll down, port configuration, stickiness is disabled. So I want to test at least 1 or 2 members with this URL. So I'm going to paste this URL in our chat box. So now if I give refresh, they're getting both web pages. Even, can someone write for me, please? Online users, anyone? If you give a refresh, like it is going to hit with 2 websites, like someone with 1 and 2, you're going to get replaced with both. Now, I'm going to enable stickiness. So basically, you know, cookies. So basically it uses a client information, browser information, location. So that's why whenever you visit any website, if you are searching for something, for example, you went to Google and you look for an article, how to lose weight. From next web page onwards, all advertisements, everything related to weight loss programs only. So basically they are using that, you know, cookies, machine learning or artificial intelligences that, so this load balancer will use cookies. When you enable stickiness, by default it is disabled, not storing any information. So that is why, so it is delivering from both. Now enable load balancer generated cookie stickiness, ELB level cookiness, application generated level cookiness. What is a cookie name? Within our application we need to have that. So I'll go with the load balancer generated cookiness. So once session is established with any of the web server for an end client, how many seconds you want to stick that session with that user? For example, once session is established for coming 300 seconds, all requests should send to the same web server. So I'm giving 60 seconds. Click on save. All right. So expiration period is 60. Now if I go here, if I give refresh, all my requests are going to only website 1. but both websites are available, both are up and running. Is there any issues with this? Both are in service, but as I enable stickiness, all my requests are going to only website. Again, along with me, so like whoever is accessing, their request may go to this site or another site. If it is hitting to another site, their all requests will go to another site only for coming 60 seconds. So can you try to refresh it, Pushpa Kumar, and tell me which one is giving, website or website 2? Not only that, whoever is trying to access, okay, Pushpa Kumar 2 session is stick to website 2 and Naveen Kumar is stick to website. See, but you are not getting replaced from both. You are not at all getting replaced from both. Your session is stick to that website. So it is good whenever you are implementing login pages and all. You know, same like, for example, you are browsing a website and you are not performing anything, you leave that idle. After some time, it automatically, when request timeout message will come, right? So whenever you're implementing similar kind of mechanism, you can definitely implement this stickiness. Again, I'm disabling it. Edit stickiness, disable stickiness, click on save, and if I go here, see, both are giving replace. Okay, so that is one feature. So we can generate logs related to this load balancer. Those all options we'll discuss in our next session. Okay, so for today, the task is observe user data and metadata and configure your load balancer with multiple EC2 instances. And we have cross-zone load balancing also. So that also I'll explain with a simple image. Okay. Okay, so any questions? So can I do stickiness based on attributes? Like, yes, you can do that. In that case, you need to use this application generated cookie stickiness. So you need to implement your mechanism and you can get that cookie name here. So then we can programmatically we can perform that. Yes, Kamaldeep.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
And the CLB comes under free tier eligibility. You are going to get 750 hours. Okay, so that means one load balancer you can run for an entire month. So you can definitely practice this.
Hello. Hello.
Okay, any questions, guys?
Hello.
Yes. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Kamal. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, able to.
Yes. I have a question that like the load balancer, like we can only use the load balancer if both the instances are same. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Like we can only use load balancer if both the instances are doing the same thing. Like
In same region, yes. If your
one of.
resources are running in same VPC, technically, even if
Yes.
your instance is in another VPC, you cannot.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah,
But the application should be the same as well, right?
yes,
If we are doing on Windows, like let's say we have a two like terminal servers like on two different IPs,
yes,
and like, we have multiple users, but the both applications, like both the terminals should have same applications. Am I right?
yes. Yeah, I got your question. I mean, so here, like I'm assuming your question is like website one is giving different data, website two is giving different data. So if website one modification is happened, how that is synchronized across multiple instances?
Yes.
Okay, that we are going to discuss. We have surveys, we have services like auto scaling group and EFS. If it is a Linux, if it is a Windows, like we have FSX. It's a shared mechanism. So we are going to we have a centralized file storage. So whatever the application you want to run, you can install there and you can mount it to your multiple instances. Whatever the modifications you are performing, it is going to replicate, or as it is a mounted one, so it is going to deliver all the changes immediately. So we are going to discuss that.
Okay, okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so make sure you terminated your resources once you have done with your labs, guys. And load balancer comes under reader eligibility. So spare some time and make sure you practice. Okay, so here I'm going to upload our Linux one. So from tomorrow onwards, I'll try to upload. I'll try to maintain this. Come on, what happened to this? So only Naresh IT only we are getting this problem. So at my home network, it is working fine. I'm not able to upload anything to Git. Okay, so here is a URL, guys. So every day I'll try to maintain the document here itself. For example, linux.txt. So here everything is available here. So directly I'll edit here and I'm going to commit those changes. So you can download any number of the times. So you can just go here, click on download zip, or you can download everything, or you can just come to this URL. So I'm going to paste it in our chat box. Not only this, like I'm going to share multiple things in our coming sessions. So you can just bookmark that. Not only now, even after completing this course also. So I'm going to maintain all the documents here. So today I'm going to upload Linux commands document. And in our coming sessions, we are going to discuss AWS S3 CLI. So that document is also available here. CLI cheat sheet. And whatever I want to make it available for you guys, I'm going to simply upload to this GitHub account. And it's a public repository, so you can download it. And if you are too curious to know what is this Git and all, and if you have any thought to learn DevOps tools, so one playlist is there, the channel, you can just go through that. And we have a free Udemy course. I made it available. So the course name is Git by Avinash. This is a URL. You can just go here and this is a URL. So it is a free actually. So you can just go here. You can spend some time and you can just go through that 14 lectures and 2 hours. Okay. Sure, I'll do that. Yeah, it's working. These are the 2 URLs. Okay, so then see you again tomorrow, guys. Thank you. And make sure you're clear with load balancer. Why? Because it is one of the important service in our course.